What if the most powerful move Angola is making right now is not happening in the mine, but in the mindset? Why would a country already ranked among the world's top diamond producers suddenly aim for 17 million carats and at the same time explore stepping inside the very company that once shaped the global diamond order? Is this just about production numbers, or is it about shifting leverage? About moving from being a supplier to becoming a decision maker? Why does this moment feel different? Not loud, not dramatic, but deliberate. And why are young Africans watching this closely, sensing that something deeper than mining expansion is unfolding? Let's find out. "17 million sounds like a statistic. It isn't. It's a signal. When Ndiama produced 14 million carats in 2024, the highest output in Angola's history, it quietly redrew a line on the global diamond map. That record pushed Angola into the position of the world's third largest producer of rough diamonds by volume. Not symbolic third, not technical third. Actually, third, behind Russia and Botswana. Now the country is targeting 17 million carats by 2027. That jump is not accidental. It suggests something deeper than optimism. It implies confidence in reserves, expansion of mining infrastructure, improved recovery technologies, and long-term planning capacity. You don't announce that scale of growth unless geological surveys, capital investment, and operational logistics align. But here's the layer most people miss. In diamonds, volume is not just output, it's bargaining power. Unlike commodities such as wheat or copper, diamonds operate inside a more controlled ecosystem. Supply flow is managed carefully because uncontrolled flooding depresses prices. The diamond industry has historically thrived on calibrated scarcity. Producers don't simply dig and dump, they time and structure releases. When a country moves from a moderate producer to a heavyweight producer, its decisions about timing start to matter globally. If Angola increases output sustainably to 17 million carats, its release schedule influences global supply pressure. Its contracts shape long-term trader expectations. Its auctions impact pricing sentiment. That's not glamour, that's leverage. 17 million carats also changes how investors look at Angola. Scale reduces volatility risk. It signals operational maturity. It suggests that diamond revenue is not episodic but structural. And structural revenue attracts long-term capital, not speculative capital. Now zoom out. Angola is already Africa's second-largest oil producer. Oil gave the country geopolitical visibility and post-war reconstruction funding. But oil is volatile, politically exposed, and deeply entangled in global energy transitions. Diamond expansion, therefore, is not replacing oil, it is balancing it. Diversification is often discussed casually. But real diversification requires anchoring a second pillar, strong enough to stand independently. At 17 million carats, diamonds become the second pillar. And here's where the psychological shift begins. For decades, Africa's mineral wealth has been discussed in terms of potential. Potential oil, potential gold, potential diamonds. Angola's current trajectory moves from potential to scale. Scale commands attention. But scale alone does not guarantee influence. History shows that high production without participation in distribution and pricing systems leaves producers vulnerable. Which raises the next question. If 17 million carats gives Angola weight in the market, how does it convert that weight into actual influence inside the system that determines global diamond value? The answer is simple, but it's uncomfortable. Influence in diamonds has never been controlled at the mine. It has been controlled at the table. For most of the 20th century, the global diamond industry revolved around one gravitational center, De Beers. The company didn't just buy and sell stones, it engineered the structure of the market itself. It stockpiled diamonds to prevent oversupply. It regulated how much entered the market at any given time. It shaped distribution channels. It influenced perception. And perception is everything in luxury markets. A diamond's price is not determined solely by geology. It is determined by how scarcity is curated, how trust is maintained, and how demand psychology is cultivated. The famous idea that diamonds are eternal, essential, and irreplaceable was not a natural discovery. It was a strategic narrative that stabilized global demand. That is why Angola's exploration of a 20 to 30% stake in De Beers matters. Not because it would control the company, it wouldn't, but because it would place Angola inside the architecture of decision-making, inside the conversations about supply calibration, inside the mechanisms that align production with pricing stability. This potential stake would likely involve Ndayama and Sodium, creating alignment between extraction, trading, and strategic equity. That alignment is transformative. Historically, many African producers operated in a fragmented model. One entity mined, another exported, and external actors managed pricing rhythms. The result? Limited visibility into how value was layered on top of raw output. If Angola secures equity participation, it narrows that informational gap. And information in commodity markets is power. Being inside the system means understanding how inventory cycles are structured. It means observing how demand fluctuations in Asia, Europe, or North America influence release strategies. It means anticipating shifts rather than reacting to them. This is not radical rhetoric. It is structural repositioning. There is also a geopolitical undertone here. De Beers is owned by Anglo American, a major global mining conglomerate. Any African state stepping into that ecosystem as a shareholder signals maturity and engagement, not confrontation, not dependency, but participation. And participation shifts posture. Instead of negotiating as an external supplier, Angola would engage as a stakeholder with a shared interest in market stability and profitability. That changes tone. It changes leverage. It changes the psychology of dialogue. But stepping inside the system raises a larger question. If Angola is moving from producer to partial insider in one of the world's most structured commodity industries, does this reflect a broader continental shift, one driven not just by economics, but by a generation that refuses to accept inherited hierarchies? Yes, it reflects something larger, something generational. Across African cities, from Luanda to Ouagadougou to Nairobi, a quiet transformation is unfolding. It's not ideological in the old Cold War sense. It's not about aligning East or West. It's about alignment with dignity. Gen Z Africans grew up connected. They watched commodity prices in real time. They saw cobalt-powered electric vehicles abroad. They saw gold reserves increase while domestic unemployment statistics barely moved. They saw oil contracts signed in glass towers while neighborhoods lacked consistent electricity. They do not hate trade. They question the imbalance. That is why Angola's diamond strategy resonates beyond geology. When a country increases production and simultaneously explores participation in global value structures, it signals something psychologically powerful. We are not just extracting, we are negotiating. This is not anger politics, it's awareness politics. Young Africans are less interested in rhetoric and more interested in architecture. They ask, who owns equity? Who controls inventory? Who sets benchmarks? Who decides timing? Who sits in boardrooms when pricing frameworks are reviewed? They understand that the difference between wealth and dependency often lies in those rooms. Look across the continent. Leaders speak more openly about beneficiation, the processing of raw materials locally before export. Countries renegotiate mining contracts. Sovereign wealth funds are strengthened. Regional payment systems are discussed. Digital infrastructure expands. These are not isolated moves. They are pieces of a larger reorientation. Angola's approach is more measured, but the direction aligns. Scale up production, strengthen national trading capacity, explore equity participation in global firms, diversify beyond oil, build leverage without theatrics. That combination is precisely what appeals to a generation tired of inherited ceilings. But generational momentum alone cannot carry an economy. Emotional resonance must be matched by institutional competence. Increased production and strategic equity are tools, not guarantees, which leads to a critical turning point. If Angola expands its diamond footprint and gains deeper market visibility, how does it ensure that this expansion strengthens national resilience rather than repeating the old cycle where resource wealth concentrates without broad transformation? What mechanisms convert leverage into long-term stability? Let's pause for a second to say big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. The mechanism is not magic, it is structured. Resource wealth becomes a curse only when it floats without design. When revenue flows in, but institutions remain weak. When exports rise, but diversification stalls. Angola's current diamond trajectory suggests an attempt to avoid that drift by building integration rather than expansion alone. Integration means linking production, trading, equity, and fiscal planning into one strategic rhythm. If Ndiama scales output towards 17 million carats and sodium strengthens its trading authority, and the state potentially participates in De Beers, then Angola is no longer operating in fragments. It is synchronizing its diamond ecosystem. That synchronization matters because revenue stability depends on coordination. If production expands without careful market pacing, prices soften. If trading lacks strategic foresight, supply volatility increases. If equity participation exists without domestic governance discipline, influence becomes symbolic. Structure aligns those layers. There is another layer too, fiscal discipline. Diamond revenue must not merely fill short-term budget gaps. It must be channeled into long-term resilience, infrastructure, education systems, industrial clusters, and digital transformation. Countries that convert commodity income into productive capital survive cycles. Those who don't remain vulnerable. Angola has already experienced oil volatility, oil-financed reconstruction after years of conflict, but it also exposed the country to global price shocks. Diamonds offer a complementary revenue stream that behaves differently in global markets. They are tied to luxury demand and wealth storage psychology rather than industrial consumption cycles. This distinction gives Angola optionality. Optionality means the country does not negotiate trade, debt, or diplomatic partnerships from a single revenue dependency. It spreads risk. It strengthens bargaining position. It reduces the urgency that external actors sometimes exploit. But leverage must be accompanied by transparency. Modern African youth are not passive observers. They demand visible accountability. They expect mineral wealth to translate into measurable transformation, not just state-level balance sheet improvement. This is where governance becomes the real test. Production numbers impress markets. Institutional credibility impresses citizens. If Angola succeeds in aligning increased output with disciplined fiscal management and visible developmental impact, then 17 million carats becomes more than a mining statistic. It becomes a stabilizing pillar, and stability creates something even more powerful than leverage. It creates strategic confidence. So if Angola builds that confidence through disciplined integration and diversification, what does that mean beyond its borders for the broader African mineral landscape and the continent's evolving position in the global order? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. If Angola succeeds, the impact will not stop at its borders. It will ripple. Because this is not just about diamonds, it is about precedent. For decades, the global mineral order followed a predictable script. Africa extracted, multinational firms structured, and foreign markets captured the highest margins. Countries negotiated royalties, occasionally equity stakes, but rarely structural influence over how entire industries function. Angola is testing a different approach: scale production, consolidate national trading capacity, and explore equity participation within the global architecture itself. That combination forms a blueprint. Imagine that logic applied elsewhere. Cobalt producers strengthening state participation in refining chains. Lithium exporters negotiating equity in battery manufacturing consortia. Gold-rich nations are expanding local refining while securing influence in international bullion trading systems. Not isolation, not nationalization rhetoric, strategic insertion. That is the shift. The global economy is already reconfiguring under pressure from supply chain fragmentation, energy transitions, and geopolitical competition. Countries that control critical minerals increasingly hold negotiating weight. Africa sits on a significant portion of those resources, from rare earth elements to platinum group metals. But geology alone does not confer power. Institutional positioning does. If Angola demonstrates that an African state can increase output responsibly, diversify beyond oil dependency, coordinate production and trading, and potentially secure influence inside legacy global firms, it sends a message. Structural participation is possible. And once something becomes possible, it becomes replicable. This is why Angola's diamond trajectory matters continentally. It challenges the assumption that Africa must remain at the bottom of value chains. It suggests that the continent can operate not as a disruptor, shouting from outside, but as a stakeholder recalibrating from within. That posture appeals deeply to a generation that rejects inherited marginality. They are not asking to exit the global system. They are asking to rebalance within it. There is also symbolism here. Diamonds were historically tied to narratives of conflict in parts of Africa. To transform diamonds into instruments of disciplined economic strategy is to rewrite part of that history. It reframes the mineral not as a source of instability, but as a tool of structural empowerment. Yet nothing is guaranteed. Blueprints only matter if executed with consistency. Production targets must be met. Governance must remain firm. Diversification must continue. Equity ambitions must be negotiated carefully. But the trajectory is visible. If Angola consolidates this model, the continent will watch closely. Investors will recalibrate. Policymakers across Africa will evaluate parallels. And that leaves us with the final question. If this is the beginning of a different mineral order, one where African states combine scale with influence, are we witnessing a quiet redefinition of how the continent engages the global economy altogether? Yes, that is exactly what this looks like. A quiet redefinition. Not a speech, not a summit declaration, not a dramatic break from the global economy. A recalibration. For centuries, Africa's role in the world economy was framed as an origin without authorship. Resources began here. Value was defined elsewhere. Negotiations happened elsewhere. Risk was absorbed here. Reward accumulated elsewhere. Angola's diamond trajectory suggests something different. Not withdrawal from global systems, insertion into them with weight. If the country reaches 17 million carats annually, it strengthens its structural presence in supply dynamics. If it aligns production with disciplined trading capacity, if it secures strategic equity participation inside a legacy industry institution, if it converts revenue into diversified economic resilience, then the narrative changes. Because influence in global systems does not emerge from slogans, it emerges from design. This is what makes the moment subtle but significant. Angola is not rejecting the diamond industry's architecture. It is studying it, positioning within it, expanding its space inside it. That approach reflects maturity. In geopolitics, the loudest actor is rarely the most influential. Influence often belongs to the one who understands timing, thresholds, and leverage. 17 million carats is a threshold. It places Angola firmly in the upper tier of global production. It signals reliability to markets. It strengthens its negotiating posture in trade dialogues. It expands fiscal space. But the deeper shift is psychological. When a country once defined primarily by extraction begins shaping how extraction connects to global decision-making, internal confidence grows. Domestic institutions evolve under that pressure. Citizens see a state acting strategically rather than reactively. And that confidence is contagious. Other African states will study this model. Investors will factor in a continent that is consolidating rather than fragmenting. Global firms will adjust their expectations of African partners. The mineral order has always been political. Control of resources underpins industrial revolutions, technological transitions, and financial power. Africa sits at the center of many critical mineral supply chains. The question has never been about possession. It has been about the position. Angola is experimenting with position. If successful, this becomes more than a diamond story. It becomes a demonstration that African states can operate with scale, discipline, and strategic intent simultaneously. The redefinition is quiet because it is structural. Structures rarely explode. They shift gradually until the new balance feels normal. And one day, when analysts look back at the period when Angola moved from 14 million to 17 million carats, while stepping deeper into global diamond governance, they may not call it a mining expansion. They may call it the moment Africa began renegotiating its place in the mineral hierarchy, not through confrontation, but through consolidation. And if that is true, then the real question is no longer whether Angola can reach 17 million carats. It is whether this is the beginning of Africa writing its own economic geometry. Let us know in the comments section. Will this move change everything for Angola? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.